So we had talked earlier this morning in Newswave about Paper Mario, the Origami King, leaking out early. In fact, after even looking into it further, it seems that it leaked almost immediately after that Treehouse event ended. Somehow it gets online, of course, broken street dates, hack switch, dumps online, all of that. And then it starts being distributed illegally because it's being pirated by quite a few people, it seems, online now. So much so that I'm starting to see videos of the final boss even for the game pop up on YouTube. And YouTube does its thing where it'll recommend different videos to you, right, as you're kind of browsing the website. And yeah, I even had the final boss technically spoiled for what it looks like from just a straight up thumbnail, right? It's just, here's the final boss for Paper Mario, the Origami King. Thanks, it's out in 2 days. Awesome. But something else is happening right now that I'm sure is not sitting well with Nintendo, and it could end up being a pretty big problem for them going forward with the Switch. And that has to do with people already being able to play Paper Mario the Origami King on their PC. Now, if you remember, the Switch, of course, was hacked pretty early on, right? And a lot of that had to do with it being a known chip that was essentially stock for the most part, and we even had groups that were trying to open up the system for homebrew, look through NVIDIA's own manuals and service information for the X1, and they were able to find a way in to open it up and essentially hack into the system or jailbreak it so they can load custom firmware. Well, interestingly enough, after all of that had happened, we started to see emulators start to pop up attempting to recreate the Switch and the X1 for use on PC. And one of those that's become very, very popular is Yuzu. Now, in its early days, I remember seeing it and following it a little bit, and I was like, I don't know if this will really turn into much. However, it has evolved rapidly, like very, very fast. Some of that has to do with some financial backing that we'll talk a little bit about here, because we have had some precedents set for that after we saw Sega and Atlus go after RCPS3 because they had Persona imagery on their site. They didn't like it. They wanted the entire thing taken down, even the Patreon. Turns out, though, that didn't happen. RCPS3 just had to remove the Persona imagery, and they were allowed to continue on with the PlayStation 3 emulator and having Persona 5 being playable on PC that way. Well, check this out. This was posted up by Eurogamer, and it makes some sense why I'm seeing so many videos now pop up on YouTube, because it turns out, yes, Paper Mario the Origami King is already being played on PC. Now, the idea here is, since there is technically, unless you're a reviewer, right, there's no legal way for so many people to be able to play Paper Mario the Origami King ahead of release. It does appear that, yes, it was leaked out, pirated, and now people are using Yuzu to play the game on PC. Yes, that is kind of an issue for Nintendo. Now, here's the big thing with this. I will still say that less than 1% would be doing this easily of the install base for the Switch. Like, you're not going to have a ton of people jump over to Yuzu and then just not buy a Switch or use a Switch. The Switch still has its purpose of being a hybrid system, so there is a chance that people, maybe even who try out Yuzu and are like, oh, I like this game, maybe I will get a Switch. That could happen, but to be honest, people who are downloading Yuzu and then downloading Paper Mario illegally probably didn't have any thoughts of buying the game or even a Switch in the first place. They just maybe wanted to try it out or thought that one game looked cool, and this is a way to basically do it for free. It's an interesting situation because basically from the start of the Switch, an emulator was being developed for it, and now we're midway through the system's lifespan, according to Nintendo themselves, and the emulator is already playing new release games on PC. Now, I don't think this is going to turn into a PSP situation where the Switch doesn't sell copies of games. It's selling copies faster than any Nintendo system ever in history. But it does make you wonder what Nintendo will look into doing here, because the thing with Yuzu, it's backed heavily by Patreon now. And we saw, again, it didn't seem to matter when Atlus and Sega came for RCPS3 and the Patreon. That didn't seem to be affected by it, because technically what Yuzu is doing right now from an emulator standpoint is legal. Like, there's nothing really that Nintendo can do about Yuzu as long as Yuzu follows the typical protocols that are put out there for an emulator to exist. It has to be using original code. You cannot use code from, like, say, we see a leak for Nintendo's own code for the Switch that gets out there, you can't copy their homework and drop it into your emulator, so all of a sudden all the games work really, really well. You can't do that, which is why a lot of emulators that come out will just make it open source. And there's also a thought that, hey, if it's just a free open source thing, the community can help to work through any bugs or issues that are being had, right? That's the other thing. But Yuzu has financial backing right now, quite a bit of it. So yes, we're seeing update after update after update. And if you go over to their compatibility, a lot of these games are becoming compatible very, very quickly. You still have games that don't even get past like the intro or the menu, but then you see a lot of games that work great or okay, or will get you through the entire game. And they don't even have something like Paper Mario down yet because it's not out. But the emulator has evolved so rapidly that it seems to just work. Now, there are probably bugs and glitches, and it might not even be the best experience now, but it is allowing people to not have to buy the game even ahead of when most people will go out and pick it up. Like Friday, I'm going to grab Ghosts and I'm going to grab Paper Mario, and I'll be playing through both of them. And I'm sure it's something that Nintendo is going to keep an eye on going into next generation with the Switch. I don't know what kind of security parameters they put in for this kind of stuff. I mean, with the newer Switches, they seem to have figured something out with Mariko, but who knows how long that will even last, as we're seeing some wild stuff happening in order to get around the security measures that Nintendo put in there, where we're seeing stuff soldered to the chip itself. That is certainly a distance that most people won't go, whereas before you pop a paperclip into it and it is completely opened up, the first 20 million Switches are pretty much hacked completely. And having this emulator that, of course, being based on the X1 probably made it a bit easier as well. I do think going into next generation for the Switch, Nintendo and NVIDIA will probably create a customized chip that is not found as a stock X1 or something, how that is, and they'll probably work to put more anti-piracy measures in and just make it overall harder, I guess, to reverse engineer and then emulate. But as of now, yes, the Switch is being emulated and having that evolve rapidly. And I'm not sure what Nintendo does at this point other than just ride it out and hope that the number of people that actually use this instead of buying a Switch remains a low percentage. I think it will. So we'll see what happens there. But let me know what you guys think about this situation. What do you think Nintendo should do about all of this? Obviously, they've been going around and shutting down ROM sites to try to stop the distribution, but like, stopping it is tough because websites pop up overnight. If one shuts down, two more pop up. Let me know, guys. This is an odd situation to see unfold. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video on the way out if you enjoyed it. Dislike it if not, and I'll see you next time.